In 1999, Hong Kong was considered one of the safest cities in Asia. Violent crime was rare. But behind this image, a crime was unfolding that would shock the entire region. The victim was Fan Man Yi, a 23-year-old woman. Fan had a troubled life. She was vulnerable, struggling financially, and had connections to criminal groups. In March 1999, she was kidnapped by 3 people, 2 men and 1 woman, after a dispute over money. What followed was not a single act of violence. It was weeks of torture. Fan Man Yi was held captive inside a small apartment. She was beaten repeatedly, burned with hot objects, assaulted, and deprived of food and medical care. The abuse was continuous and escalating. Here is the first critical question. How does torture continue for weeks without intervention? The apartment was in a populated area. Neighbors lived nearby, but no one intervened. Screams were either ignored or mistaken for something else. Eventually, Fan Man Yi died from her injuries. But even in death, the cruelty did not stop. Her body was dismembered. Most remains were disposed of. Her skull was placed inside a Hello Kitty doll, hidden in the apartment. This detail is what turned the case into a cultural nightmare. Months later, a teenage girl came forward to police. She had been involved in the apartment and was suffering from guilt and fear. Her testimony led investigators to the crime scene. When police searched the apartment, they found evidence of prolonged torture, bloodstains, weapons, and finally the doll. Inside it was the skull. The suspects were arrested and charged. During the trial, details emerged that shocked even experienced prosecutors. The defendants showed little remorse and attempted to shift blame onto one another. All were convicted. But the sentencing sparked controversy. Despite the extreme brutality, the court ruled that there was insufficient evidence to prove intentional murder beyond doubt. The main offenders received life imprisonment, while another received a shorter sentence. This led to public outrage. So we must ask, when cruelty is this extreme, does the legal definition of murder still feel sufficient? The murder of Hello Kitty became more than a crime. It became a symbol of how vulnerable people are exploited, how silence enables violence, and how evil can exist in ordinary places. Fan Man Yi was not a headline. She was a human being whose suffering lasted weeks. And that is why this case is still remembered, not for shock value, but as a warning of what happens when brutality is ignored until it is too late.